Morning, everyone. Thought I'd say that. It's not morning. It's not evening. Not afternoon. Who knows what it is? Depends on where you live, right? Because sometimes we get people from all over the world here. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, as they once said on the Truman Show. Great movie, by the way. Good to see you all. Sorry, wasn't around last week. Was doing a little business traveling. Good to be back with all of you once again here today, though. So let's take a look, see what we got, see how we're doing. Natalie, not Natalie, Natural B. Can your OCD make you feel like you want the thoughts, aka you really want this, it's changing, etc.? And do we keep embracing uncertainty with these thoughts just like all others? Yes, that was an easy answer. I mean, why wouldn't OCD try to make you feel like you want the thoughts, right? Sounds like something OCD would want you to do as a way then to maybe punish you for having the thoughts and then get you to do more compulsions. So I would go, yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely a great chance that OCD could do that. Okay. Doodle dial. I'm often obsessed. I'll go obsessing over the fact that some things that cause knee-jerk reactions in others don't seem to have the same effect on me, particularly when it comes to sex or relationships. What should I do? I should clarify nothing illegal or abusive, just something unusual in the dynamics. Well, maybe I don't have the same reaction that other people do about, say, horror films or foods or things. I mean, why does the fact that other people don't have the same reactions to something that I might have anything to do with that might mean something good or bad? I can think of probably lots of things that I might have a different reaction to than other people do. And if you're even thinking, yes, no, I'm talking about a knee-jerk reaction in others. I might laugh at a joke that other people don't. My knee-jerk reaction is to laugh at it, and other people's knee-jerk reaction is, oh, maybe. Or I might have that reaction about, again, a food or a smell or something of that nature, and other people don't. Maybe their reaction is they like something more, and I don't have the same kind of reaction to them. What? I can't base the judgment on myself on the fact that I have a different reaction than some of the people I know to certain things. If all of us had the exact same reaction to all things, all of us would be the same person, right? And so there are certain songs that some people like that maybe most people don't. There's certain music that some people like that most people don't. There's certain movies that some people like that others don't. We can go on and on and on about how other people react versus how we react to something. Uh, you might be the only person in the world who has a reaction to something that in the way that you do. Does it still mean that your reaction is wrong? I wouldn't say so. You ask, what should I do? Why do you have to have the same kind of knee-jerk reaction that other people do? Why must it be the same? You're saying in your question, but when it comes to sex or relationships, my reactions are different. Okay, so could also be things that maybe in your culture are unacceptable, but to you want it to be that way, right? I could think of lots of things. If you're raised in a certain culture and certain things are taboo, but in other cultures they wouldn't be, yeah, maybe you're going to get a much different reaction in your culture, but it might be a normal reaction in some other kind of culture too, right? So be careful of being overly judgmental. It's not shocking, I don't think, to anyone here that OCD would say, you're being a little judgy. OCD would probably say, you're not really being judgy enough in this kind of situation. But yeah, why wouldn't OCD be overly judgmental about anything? And what a great example here of, and comparing, well, you notice that you did that slightly different than everybody else. What does that say about you? It doesn't have to say anything about you whatsoever. Vanessa, after having OCD for a while now, I constantly doubt myself in everything I do. Other OCD subtypes also appear. How can I learn to accept and believe in myself more? Wow. Now, deep question. Thank you, Vanessa. Trying to go deep at the beginning here. I like it. Let's pick that apart a little bit. I think this one is a good one to really dive into for all of us. After having OCD for a while now, I constantly doubt myself. I'm going to show this one. And everything I do. Well, that sounds like OCD. OCD being the doubting disorder. So why wouldn't we doubt ourselves and everything that we do? Doubt our purposes for why we might do something, have doubts about anything. Makes a lot of sense to me that there would be doubt. Other subtypes also appear. Okay. I mean, I don't know that I would call the doubting yourself and everything you do another subtype. I would call that just that's OCD, right? But then you ask, how can I learn to accept and believe in yourself more? So I want you to think of something, Vanessa. What is it that you need to believe in more? Do you need to believe in more this idea that I don't have to doubt everything? Do you need to just accept the fact that you are a flawed person, like every single other person in the world, that none of us meet up to the definition of perfect, nor are any of us expected to? Or is it that your OCD, Vanessa, has said, Vanessa, you do need to be perfect, Vanessa. It is, of course, fine that no one else in the world is, but you, Vanessa, on the other hand, let's just be honest here. There's supposed to be some perfection going on here, and I just don't understand why you aren't perfect, why you aren't meeting the criteria for perfection. I think that there's something significantly wrong with you. And that's the messaging that OCD is going to send. to people, right? I mean, that's what it's going to try to play on and keep reinforcing over and over that, hey, Vanessa, what's with the doubt? Why have any of these things? I mean, why have doubt about anything at all? Why not be perfect in any way whatsoever? How dare you be a human and not, some mythical godlike supernatural creature without flaw and with all ability about everything? Yeah. How dare you? How dare you be a mere mortal human being with the flaws that you have and the lack of perfection that you have? I mean, that's just unacceptable. Why would anybody ever like you, much less you like in yourself or believe in yourself, because you're not perfect? I mean, how can one live life doubting? Well, here's the answer, OCD. Everybody lives life doubting. Nobody is without doubt about anything. And all of us without OCD aren't plagued by the notion that we do have to be perfect. We can acknowledge, we can accept that we're not, and we can move on, instead of having this voice in the back of our head that's going, oh, no. Wait a minute. Hold on. You're not allowed to be imperfect. That's just not acceptable whatsoever. It is time. It is absolutely time to develop perfection and to lose all doubt. Now, I'm hoping this is sounding familiar to people. And I'm hoping all of you would read what Vanessa wrote and go, oh, Vanessa, it's fine. You know, of course there's going to be doubt. But then all of your OCD is going to go, yeah, but that's bad. Shouldn't have that. There should be none of that whatsoever. And I want everybody to be able to recognize that it's part of being a human. So if any of you watching are human tonight, maybe there are some of you who are not, right? I'm never going to say 100%. If any of you are human, though, I'd like you to take a moment, and I'd like you to say to yourself, it's okay to experience doubt because I am a human being. I'll give you a moment. It's okay to experience doubt because I am a human being. And there's no parentheses there. I don't want any parentheses excluding this one area of my life where I must be perfect, because if I'm not, then something bad or awful or horrible will happen, and therefore I have to do a compulsion in order to neutralize it, because if I don't neutralize it and it happens, then it's all my fault, because I could have just taken a moment to do that compulsion to make sure that nothing bad would have happened, but then I chose not to. So what kind of selfish, awful, horrible person I am for not having done the compulsion in order to neutralize it just in case. Close parentheses. Sound like anyone? Any familiarity there on that parentheses for anybody listening? Yeah. That's the rub, right? That's where OCD is going to come in and be like, how can I screw with you? Oh, I know. Doubt everything. Doubt absolutely everything. Have no assurance about anything whatsoever. And be uncomforted by anything but perfection. Because if you don't achieve that, what do you really have? What are you without being perfect? right? What really are you? Yes, of course, no one you know is perfect and you accept them for who they are because that's fine for them and that's okay. But you can't live that way because you have a different set of rules that you must apply to. Because, of course, the universe has decided that you must be a certain way, even though it hasn't decided that for anybody else. And that makes total sense, of course, if you think about it, after maybe 17 and a half hours of contemplating why you might be the most special person in the entire world, but it's fine for nobody else to be. Parentheses, close parentheses. Yeah. Am I speaking the language of anyone out there tonight? Am I hitting the nail on the head for anyone? Have any of you felt tortured by these internal whisperings and dialogues? Are any of you maybe even surprised? How did he know? How did he know that that's going on in my head? And the answer is very simple to that. Sorry about that. Seem to be crazy winds in the area, so the internet might be a little up and down. So apologize for that. Steve says, when I see things that go against religion and get a feeling in my body, my brain tells me that I must have liked it. I have to do compulsions to prove to God that I do not. Any advice, please help. I always love this one because, Steve, I'm going to bet if you believe that your God is all powerful and almighty and all knowing, then your God knows what's going on in your head and doesn't require any compulsions to prove anything to your God if your God already knows these things. I've always been fascinated by people with religious scrupulosity who do things as a reminder to their deity that they do think or not think this thing or believe or do not believe this thing or didn't mean this thing or did mean it kind of thing. Because again, an almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing being needs no reminder whatsoever. So therefore, Steve, I'm going to challenge you. Your compulsion isn't proving anything to your God. Your compulsion is purely being done in order to make you feel better. That's it. Your God requires no compulsions. I've not found a holy book that said, in chapter OCD, the book of OCD, chapter 7, verse 12, thou shalt do all compulsions to make thy mighty God appeased and happy whenever thou experience internal doubteth or something of that nature, right? I haven't read that book anywhere in any kind of religious text of any religion that I'm aware of whatsoever. And therefore, again, anyone with religious scrupulosity, your compulsions do nothing for your higher power. Your compulsions are done to try to make you feel better and neutralize the fear that you have somehow offended your higher power or caused them great pain or sorrow or have done something that has led you to the bad place that you don't want to go to and spend eternity in whatsoever. Okay. So Steve, people see things on television or hear things on radio or witness things daily that may go against their religion, their belief system. But if that's the case, right, then nobody gets into heaven. In fact, there's a fantastic song that I love from a band up in Canada. Unfortunately, they've broken up, but we can all wish for them to get back together. The band is called Ash and Bloom, ASH, and Bloom, BLOOM. And they wrote a song called Heaven is a Ghost Town. And it's fantastic. And you can YouTube it. They did even a cute little video for it as well, too. And I would highly recommend checking it out if you get the chance. It's, again, Ash and Bloom, Heaven is a Ghost Town. Steve, just because your brain tells you that you might have liked something, again, doesn't have to mean that it is true, right? And I want you to really kind of think about that and focus on that why would we believe anything that OCD tells us when there's absolutely no reason to do so whatsoever? I can't think of anything that I have found that OCD has told the truth about, right? And so I want you to kind of remember that and recognize that it doesn't care if your brain tells you that you might have liked something. That doesn't matter, right? My brain could tell me that I like jumping off cliffs, right? It doesn't mean, oh, well, I better go find a cliff now and jump off one, right? It doesn't mean that I have to do it. It doesn't mean anything. It's just something in my head. But when I react to it as truth in that kind of situation, well, now, again, better go do that compulsion, because if I don't, well, that higher power, they're a vengeful one, and they're going to make sure that I suffer in punishment for all eternity for having maybe liked something that they might not have liked. Tonight's webinar brought to you by NoCD. NoCD, a downloadable app you can get through Google Play or iOS. Check us out online there at www.nocd.com. We got teletherapy across the United States, so come on in. We are working with people in Canada and the UK and Australia. And hey, we're also always looking for great therapists too to come join us at NoCD. So if you want to join our awesome therapy network and check us out, please come to nocd.com and check us out. We'd love to talk to you. Leg XSE says, what to do if your OCD is now centered around something that you actually used to like? I'm afraid that if I do ERP, it will cause a relapse back to my past self. Again, what a great OCD kind of question. What if this and what if that, and what if it causes that and it leads to this what if, and then that what if might happen to that, and that what if could be this what if, and that type of thing. Oh, it's exhausting, isn't it? So let's break that one down as well too. I'm going to pull that one into the old screen as well. What to do if your OCD is now centered around something that you actually used to like? So let's say that I actually used to like Velveeta cheese. All right, we'll just go with that. I used to like it a lot as a kid, actually. I don't think I've eaten it in 30 years, but I used to like it a lot. Now I'm afraid if I do ERP, it will cause a relapse back to my past self. So if I do ERP and eat some Velveeta, it will cause a relapse back to my past self, where now I like Velveeta again. Is that a bad thing if I go back to being my old self? Or maybe legacy, and excuse me for putting some words into this just based on the wording of it, but are you trying to say that you don't like your old self, and now you're afraid that if I do some ERP, it will bring you back to being the person that you didn't like before, if that's the case? Now, I'll tell you this. I haven't yet met someone who's done ERP who's changed as a person, right? In the sense that suddenly they became a totally different person, or they became their past self or something of that nature. I've met people who've done ERP and have talked about the fact that they've learned how to manage some of their symptoms, and that they're not so overwhelmed by some of their anxiety or depression or things anymore. But again, I haven't met people who have become their old self, if that's the case. Now, legacy, I can't give you a promise and tell you that you wouldn't be the first person in the world to become your past self. I can't give you that guarantee that wouldn't happen, because I give no guarantees about anything. But I'd go with the probabilities amazingly unlikely, and have to live with the fact that I'll take the chance, right? I'll take the chance that I'm not going to become that old self that I don't like if I do ERP. Now, I again love to point out trickery, and I think this is OCD trickery, because this is OCD saying, how can we get them not to do ERP and challenge us? Oh, wait a minute. I know. The best way to do that is, of course, to tell them if they do ERP, they're going to become that horrible, awful, bad person that they used to be. And wouldn't that be horrible? Yeah, let's get them to believe that. That sounds good. And now they're going to go do ERP, and let's insert that thought in there. Look at them. They've paused. Oh, that's the OCD laugh. Wahahaha. We have gotten them to not do ERP now by telling them that if they do, they might become their old self. That'll hold them off for a while. And let's come up with the next piece of trickery that we can shovel them in the future when this trickery is seen as the stupid facade that it is. So what will be our next trickery that we will use in this kind of situation? It's all OCD bull, everyone, is what it is. It's all OCD bull. All right. Let me see. Let's read this one. There's a woman who has OCD and treats OCD who claims scripting helps very few people. Is that true? Also, will anxiety always go down even in the face of a real threat? Let's take on both of those things. I think scripting has its place for some people and can be very helpful for some people, but other people may need other types of exposure and response prevention tactics to be able to help them. So for some people, writing out a worst case scenario and reading that or loop taping that could be a great help. For other people, it might be going right to some in vivo things. For some people, I might do the loop tape and script first, and then I'll go to the real thing. Just depends. Right? Depends on the person. So I'm not saying that it doesn't help. I think that it could, and it has its place. It depends on the person I'm treating. Your second part, also, will anxiety always go down even in the face of a real threat? So we may see that, right? I mean, it is possible. I think that there are people who just live in horrible situations who kind of get used to that situation and don't feel anxious about it every day. Not to say that they still wouldn't be able to try to find an escape or something, but there are some people who I think are just kind of resigned to the fact that this is a pretty dangerous situation, and I need to figure out how to function and survive in this situation in the best way possible, right? So there's let's take dangerous situations, like maybe certain sports, driving cars really, really fast at like 200 miles an hour. Dangerous things to do. And yet there's people who get paid millions of dollars to do so on a track with people watching them. And there's accidents and various things and stuff going around. So there's real threats everywhere in the situation, right? Or baseball games, right? You may go to a baseball game and you could get hit by a foul ball. It happens once in a while. You see it now and then. Someone gets a beaner right in the head, just boom, that foul ball comes over that fence and just nails somebody because they aren't paying attention. Should everybody at a baseball game be like this? When is the foul ball coming? No, right? I mean, because it's a rare experience. Now, would it be beneficial for people to keep an eye on the ball at all times? Excuse me. Sure it would, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So here's baseball games where we have dangerous league balls flying all over the place and sometimes hitting people. And yet there's people laughing and joking and drinking and eating and hanging out with friends and checking their phones and listening to the game and scoring and all those kinds of things, even though it could be a dangerous situation with real threat that's going on there, right? So there's a great example of where here's a dangerous situation and most people aren't feeling anxious, right? Now, is that bad? Well, no, not necessarily. I don't feel anxious when driving all the time. Driving is probably the most dangerous thing I do every day. I'm definitely paying attention, right, to what's going on, and I'm watching what's happening, but I'm definitely not feeling in danger every time I do it. And it turns out that I'm probably a better driver for not feeling in danger constantly while driving, but I am staying awake and alert to try to make sure that I won't have anything bad happen while driving. JW says, why does it made OCD? I'm going to change that. Why does it make OCD so much better when someone with OCD does not drink alcohol? Why does it make OCD? Second part. Especially if they had problems with alcohol in the past. Seems like drinking and getting to drink makes OCD thoughts, intrusive thoughts much worse, and the imagination goes wild. JD, JW, sorry, there are people who have had the opposite experience as well, and who have drank alcohol and have said, oh my gosh, my thoughts are decreased with alcohol, and then go on to develop substance use. And if you've watched any of our things, in fact, we've had on here two moms who were Radhika and Margaret, who were describing how their sons developed substance use and ultimately died from the substance abuse, right? Because they learned that OCD could be, quote unquote, managed by the substance, but the substance that got out of hand, right? And took over to the point that it ultimately led to deaths of people. So there may be some people who take a substance and report OCD gets worse. I've met numerous people who have said their first year's use of marijuana was so overwhelming to them, they had kind of a psychosis kind of feel to it, that it led to the experience of intrusive thoughts, and they've had OCD horribly ever since. Now, again, I'm paying no homage or saying anything about any kind of drug here tonight. I mean, don't go leaving here saying McGrath said marijuana causes OCD. That is not what I'm saying, right? But I have seen people that has been a trigger for people with OCD, where they had such a bad reaction to it the first time that they did it, and it led to such kind of intrusive experiences that they were having, that to this day they still are afraid, what if I were to think that again, or what if that happens again, or now that I know that I could have those kinds of thoughts, it really bothers them, and things of that nature. So here's what I say. Unprescribed medications, right? And you can put drugs, quote unquote, into that medication kind of aspect. Unprescribed chemicals are probably not a great idea when you're experiencing OCD. And it's best to work with some professionals to help come up with the best ways to treat it without jumping to the use of unregulated chemicals. So that's what I'll say about this, and hope that is very, very helpful. Autumn says, oh my God, this is so exciting. Well, Autumn, it is so exciting to have you here as well. So thank you so much. Nathan says, Dr. McGrath, that's me. Do you, or does NoCD as a whole, believe that OCD can be managed through ERP alone without medication? Or does NoCD believe that both used in combination is best? Thank you in advance. Nathan, I will say that depends on the member that we're working with. We call people members at NoCD. So I have worked with numerous people who have done just fine with OCD through ERP alone. I have worked with numerous people who have done great with ERP plus medication as well. We make no stance on one is the best. We take it very personalized by the member that we're working with to come up with what's the best solution to help this member overcome OCD and live the best life possible that they can. And if that involves a combination of ERP and medication, fantastic. And if that involves ERP alone, fantastic. Okay. Boyce says, hi, doctor. Hello. Can you please explain your thoughts on what depersonalization is and how to treat it? Sure. Depersonalization is feeling detached from your body, from yourself. And it is something that can happen when we're panicking. So we see it a lot in panic disorder. It could be a sensation too that you maybe have felt in the past, and now you're afraid, what if I were to have it happen again? And that can even be brought up by OCD grabbing onto it and say, oh my gosh, how do you know if you're really attached to your body? You better check to make sure that you are attached to your body and you're not depersonalizing, or there's derealization, being detached from your environment, right? And so OCD loves to catch on to something that's really uncomfortable and say, what if that were to happen again? So it wouldn't be uncommon for people with OCD to have the fear about derealization or depersonalization. And in terms of treating depersonalization, I like to use interoceptive exposures, and those are exposures to bodily sensations that people experience. So what I want to do, boys, is find out what is it that might lead you to having feelings of depersonalization, and then purposely do some ERP to those. So I'm going to expose you to those types of situations and have you not do any compulsions or other safety behaviors. And I'm going to have you sit in the discomfort of whatever it is that might lead to feelings of depersonalization and keep you in that situation until you recognize that just because it feels like I'm depersonalizing doesn't mean that I am. Or even if I do start to depersonalize, doesn't mean that something horrible or awful is starting to happen. And when you remove the fear of the depersonalization, you can start to get people to feel better. Okay? So interoceptive exposure is something that we do a lot. Sidalik, hello. Why is it in the recovery process that we undergo what seems to be an identity crisis where we question who we are all the time, especially with harm and existential OCD? Probably because OCD is trying to tell you that you are one way or one thing, and treatment is trying to tell you the opposite. And so you have to kind of take a look at that and make some choices about, what am I? Am I what my OCD tells me, or am I the opposite of what my OCD tells me? And I try to get people to recognize that what your OCD tells you is probably, again, ridiculous ding dong bull. And I want you to walk away from what your OCD is telling you, because I have found it to be simply just not true. That OCD doesn't seem to be telling people the truth. OCD loves to lie to people and tell people all sorts of ridiculous stuff, but get people to believe that what if it were true, and maybe we should just do these compulsions to make sure that that wouldn't be the case, because only by making sure that we aren't that thing are we fine, is everything okay. So I hope that makes sense. Now, that identity crisis, again, could come from the fact of you're kind of internally having to make some decisions here. Am I going to believe the OCD, or am I not going to believe the OCD? We hope that you're not going to believe the OCD. Really, that's our goal, is to not be believing the OCD. Because again, haven't found any OCD that's really told the truth to anybody. So that would be our goal, is to not believe the OCD. Earth Lover says, should I still do my exposure if I feel unsafe? Well, there's a couple answers to that, Earth Lover. Number one is, obviously, when we're exposing you to things, we are exposing you to things that are uncomfortable. Now, that might lead you to feel a bit unsafe. And so, Earth Lover, I say, make sure you're doing your ERP with a trained therapist who can kind of walk you through there and be with you in these situations at first, to walk you through whatever kind of sensations that you're experiencing, help you manage those, and then work on doing them more on your own as you get more proficient at the ERP work that you're doing. So I would say, make sure you're working in conjunction with somebody who can help guide you through that experience. Mohammed says, when I watch any OCD-related video or webinar, such as this one maybe, I am focused on cutting down compulsions, but the next day I get even more thoughts and compulsive behaviors. Thank you. The old backdoor spike. Yes, the punishment from OCD. How dare you spend less time doing what I wanted you to do yesterday? So today I'm going to torture you even more to make sure that you not only make up for it, but that we really reinforce holding on to me and keeping me in your life, because I'm your OCD. I'm your only friend. Only I will tell you what's good and real in the world. Only I should be what you trust, and you shouldn't listen to anyone or anything else whatsoever. So, Mohammed, tomorrow, I want you to double down on not doing compulsions tomorrow. And then your OCD is really going to scream at you tomorrow. And then double down the next day on not doing compulsions. Then your OCD is going to be just throwing nuclear bombs at you and everything like that. But, Mohammed, I want to remind all of you of one of my favorite books as a childhood. And I know I've talked about it on here before, but I'm going to bring it up again. And it is a book by Sesame Street. And it's called There's a Monster at the End of This Book. And when you open up the first page, there's Grover. And Grover is saying, hey, welcome to the book. Glad you're here. However, don't turn the page, because there's a monster at the end of the book. And so you turn the page. And there's Grover going, hey, I don't think you heard me. There's a monster at the end of this book. And then you see Grover is like pounding a couple of nails into the picture there. So you turn the page. And then it's Grover, No, I told you, don't turn. There's a monster in the book. And let me just put up some barricades. And over the course of the rest of the book, you get to the second to last page, which looks like the Les Miserables barricade has been built to try to prevent you from turning the page. And then you turn the page. And then there's Grover, and he's laughing. He's going, oh, I'm the monster at the end of the book. That's kind of what OCD is like. It really is. It's the Wizard of Oz, right? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Well, how about pay all the attention to the person behind the curtain? Because that's really what Oz was just a man with some gears and some speakers and all sorts of things. That's all. Nothing more whatsoever than that. It was a show. It wasn't a reality. And really, that's what your OCD is, right? It's a bunch of things going on inside of your head that, can show no proof. I've asked people, prove to me your OCD is true. No one's been able to do it yet. Many people have tried. No one has yet been able to do it. Once again, you're watching the NoCD webinar. Our webinar brought to you by NoCD. NoCD, a downloadable app you can get through Google Play or iOS. Check us out online at www.nocd.com. And teletherapy all over the place here in the United States. Getting more and more insurance coverages all the time as well. And in Canada and Australia and Great Britain or the UK, whichever you prefer to call it these days. Glad to have you here. We are 2/3 through our show. We got 19 minutes to go. Llama Party, which is spelled correctly with the 2 L's, by the way, so thank you. I have like an invisible sensation contamination OCD. I don't think I'll get sick. My OCD picks things that leave sensations on me and other things that I have to wash my hands when I touch them. So, yeah, this is like Cootie's OCD. Like, I can feel things on me. I remember back in the heyday of HIV treating people, and they would say, I touch something and now I feel the HIV virus. I can feel it burrowing into my skin. And if I don't wash within a certain amount of time and get that virus off me, it's going to get into my bloodstream. It is not uncommon for people with OCD to talk about feeling something and a sensation or something of that nature. We've talked in here about sexual feelings, the groinal experience, where people feel like they feel a sensation or something down in the groin area that they shouldn't be having. So again, OCD can take on all forms and try to trick you in all ways. And so a feeling of a sensation on your hands or in the netherworlds down there would be something that would be absolutely in the purview of OCD and something that it would do for people. 100%. No doubt about it whatsoever that that's what could happen with OCD. Random video game clips. Welcome back. How do you know that you are doing the right ERP? Is using mindfulness and noticing thoughts and letting it be there while I go through my day enough? How do I expose for my partner looks knows? Okay, I don't understand the last one. It says, how do I do exposure for my partner looks knows? That one I'm confused on, but I'll go back to the other ones. How do you know that you are doing the right ERP? Well, always great to work with a trained therapist who can help you figure that out, right? So that's one thing to do right off the bat, is to be working with a therapist who will kind of help you with that consultation and assist you with coming up with what might be the best ERP exercises. And then number 2 is using mindfulness and noticing thoughts and letting it be there while I go through my day enough. Enough, I think one thing that you really want to take a look at is making that decision for you. I would add ERP to that as much as I possibly could, so that you really feel like you're doing the right stuff, right? That not only is it just sitting with thoughts and allowing them to be there, but really really then going and doing something and facing it, taking an action and being involved in the experience of something. Those are the things that you want to really add to the whole thing, and take it out of just your head and moving into bring it into your life, right? So how can you do that? By doing ERP as much as possible. Great use of, you can use mindfulness and great at noticing thoughts and being able to be with them. But I also like to take it beyond that and going into action too. And that's where I love to use ERP for people. Blue says, can HOCD, which now we would call sexual orientation OCD because it can go in any way whatsoever. So can sexual orientation OCD change my sexuality? Because before I never had these thoughts and I don't want my sexual orientation to change. And because my mind is just doubting that I'm straight. Well, can sexual orientation OCD change your sexuality? I've never seen that happen before. What I see, again, going back to the doubting disorder, OCD is all about doubt, right? And so can it get you to doubt things about yourself? Of course, it can get you to doubt anything about yourself, including whatever identity it is that you potentially have. So it would make sense that OCD would lead you to doubt things about yourself. And it could even be about your own orientation, that something like that could happen too. But I haven't seen OCD cause anything. Like, I haven't seen OCD cause people to run people over with their car, even though they're afraid, what if I run people over with my car? And I haven't seen OCD cause people to, one of my favorite ones that I did, push somebody, say, into a train. Because I once treated somebody who was afraid, what if I push people into oncoming trains? And I actually took her to a train track and for 3 hours stood at the edge of the track with her behind me and her hands on my shoulder and me yelling at her to push me into every train that came by for 3 hours. So I haven't seen OCD cause things to happen, but I sure have seen people be afraid of what if OCD were to cause something to happen. That I deal with all the time. La 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 says, can watching the lives be a compulsion? Maybe these lives is maybe what you're saying. I often do it when I feel bad, but I know it's better than actually researching or analyzing because you guys don't give reassurance. Yeah. Well, interesting, Lala. I mean, you have to take a look at what your purpose of watching this is. And though I love a great audience, believe me, I really do. Maybe on a situation where you're feeling like doubting whether watching this is a compulsion or not, flip a coin. And if it's heads, go ahead and watch it. And if it's tails, don't watch it that week and see how you feel afterwards, right? So you can even make watching this into an ERP for yourself if you wonder if watching it might become a compulsion or not. See how that goes. I hope that it helps. Love to Play 100 says, love the music. Wow. Well, we're at our... We're 47 minutes in and we're 3 minutes into the questions that we have here. So I'm glad you like the music. Of course, that music comes from my good friend, Paul Melia, who has been on the show before. Paul has OCD and has done some beautiful composing as well. So check him out. Paul Melia, Melia, out of Ireland. Fantastic, fantastic composer, and has an album out as well, too. I'm sure that he would love to have you buy a copy of it as well, as all musicians would love for you to buy their music as well. So Paul, wonderful stuff. Great job, Paul. I think I have your, yes, there it is. Hold on, everyone. My buddy Paul's album right there. There it is, where our theme song comes from. Check it out, everybody. And I think that you'll love it. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff. So thank you, Paul. As always, we'll have to have Paul back on again to talk about the tune and the inspiration and all of those things. That would be wonderful. Let's see. David says, I've worked on OCD for months with therapists. I haven't seen a reduction in my OCD. Is it worth going on to an OCD inpatient clinic? Yeah, it might be, because one of the reasons why is maybe it's just not enough ERP that's going on, right? David, I don't know how much homework you're doing or work between sessions or how much focus you spent on actually doing ERP, but I would suggest that if it's not enough and you're not seeing the changes that you want, that's why there are higher levels of care. All of my career really before an OCD and a little stint at a college counseling center was really in the higher levels of care. I opened up residential treatment center, partial hospital, and a couple of intensive outpatient programs as well too. So absolutely, that's why those kind of programs are there. And I would hope that they would be helpful if you're seeing that one-on-one therapy once or twice a week just isn't cutting it for you. Okay. Llama Party again says, I don't think I'll get sick and get anyone else sick. It's just like if I pick up certain stuff my OCD thinks are not necessarily dirty, but my OCD makes me wash my hands when I touch them. Well, again, that would be a compulsion, Llama Party. So it's time to not do the hand washing, even though your OCD tells you that you might be dirty and you might get sick. Those are the times that you want to say, hey, OCD, not giving in to you, so shut up. Not going to play your game anymore because you're a ninny poopy head, or whatever it is that you would like to call your OCD this week, whatever ridiculous name you can think of. Go for it, because OCD is just a liar anyway, and it's not telling you the truth. Gingy says, can real event OCD make you feel like things occurred at a different date to when you know it happened? Sure, why not? And can it also put a spin on the narrative because you can't remember all the details? 100% absolutely. Yeah. So sure, yes, 100%, no doubt about it. Yes is the answer to both of your questions. And therefore, again, why believe anything that OCD tells you as the interpreter of the experience when OCD is saying, no, it didn't happen on that date, even though I have right there on my calendar, this is the date that it happened and everyone else confirms it too. Why would we believe OCD? But this is where people go to. Yeah, but it feels so real. I mean, it seems so real. What if it's true? And what if I miss something? What if everybody else is wrong? And boy, when those what ifs start to come into play, it's so hard to challenge those, right? Because again, they feel so real, right? It's such doubt. But it goes back to what we started at the beginning about OCD is the doubting disorder, and OCD is trying to influence you with doubt all over the place, right? Don't fall for it. Don't fall for the doubt all the time anymore, because it's doubt upon doubt upon doubt upon doubt. And what a pain in the butt it is when we have so much doubt going on. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next thing here. Anonymous 23 says, I have intrusive thoughts and I've noticed it acts up more and more at work. So much so that I'm staring, but really I'm processing, and I believe I'm making coworkers uncomfortable. What can I do? Well, one thing, Anonymous, you might do is set a random alarm to go off, here and there, and check yourself when it goes off. What are you doing? And if you find yourself staring, put yourself back into work, right? So that would be one potential thing to do. If you have a trusted person at work who understands what's going on and knows about your OCD, and they see you staring, they can send you a little message or walk by your office or your desk and be like, hey, just a little tiny reminder to you or something like that. But you, of course, want to be able to catch yourself doing these things so that you kind of get yourself back into working. You also then want to make sure that you're doing ERP to whatever it is that's in your intrusive thoughts outside of work, so that you can practice those things. And therefore, as you practice them outside of work and they get less and less bothersome to you, then hopefully over time, they get less and less bothersome to you, even in work as well, too, because you've already been working on challenging yourself around them and practicing that thing. So that is what I would suggest. Start doing ERP to those things outside of work so that the influence on them at work becomes decreased over time, because the more ERP you do to it, hopefully the less bothered by it you are. And then it doesn't matter if it happens at work or outside of work or anywhere whatsoever. Jesse says, I've been on medicine for 12 years and you're afraid of stopping taking them. Well, Jesse, I think it's time to evaluate that. Is the medicine helping you? And if it is, do you need to stop, right? Or could it be something that you continue taking? Do you have OCD telling you should stop taking the medication because it's bad to be on medicine for a long time, which I've seen some people with OCD go to. So that's something to talk to your therapist about and your psychiatrist. And remember this, if you're going to stop meds, don't just stop them on your own. That'll be the one advice. I can't give you medical advice, but that one I can tell you, never stop meds just on your own. Always work with somebody who can kind of help you get through the whole taper experience in the best way possible. Okay. Ipshita says it's been 2 months. You've been washing your hands aggressively because you feel if you touch something gross and you don't want to wash your hands and accidentally touch your books, then God will punish you. Please help. Well, I didn't know God was so concerned about people's books, but this is interesting. First of all, I'm going to bet most people on here would agree that whatever deity you might believe in probably has more important things to do than wonder if your hands were dirty and touched your books, right? But maybe your deity doesn't care about some of the other major things going on in the world and has decided you touching your books with dirty hands is truly the most important thing in the entire world. So that might be one way to kind of look at it. And you'll see here I'm trying to take the Mickey out of the OCD a little bit here in this kind of situation. Number two, just because your OCD tells you that doesn't mean that you have any knowledge whatsoever of the mind of any potential higher power that may or may not be out there at all. So your OCD says that, but what proof do you have of that at all? Again, this would be the question that I would say, okay, fine. Give me the proof that that's true. Give me the proof that your God will be angry at you for touching your books with dirty hands. What proof do you have? And I hear things like this all the time. Well, it feels real. Not proof, right? Okay, try again. But what if it's true? Not proof again, right? And no one can give me proof to this whatsoever. People have attempted for years to try to prove to me something that their OCD has told them. No one has yet given me the proof that it's actually true, that it's actually going to happen, because that's just not the way that it works. Okay. OCD isn't about proof. It's about fear and feelings and all these things, and people believing that their feelings are truths. But we know that that's not the case. We know that just because you feel something doesn't mean it's true. Just because you think something doesn't mean it's true. Just because you have an image of something doesn't mean you like it. Just because you have an urge for something doesn't mean that you want it. Okay? Don't get stuck in that idea. So, Ipshita, I want your hands to be dirty. I want you touching your books. Those are the things that need to happen in order for you to truly overcome your OCD and not be ruled by it for the rest of your life. You got to work up to that, work with a therapist on that so that they can help you get to that point. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, once again, you have spent an hour of your life sitting here with me. I hope that it has been helpful. I always love to go down to kind of the bottom here just to kind of see what people have been saying. Hopefully, the answers tonight have been very helpful to all of you. And I love, as always, as I look through this, that people appreciate the humor. So thank you very much. And also that people have been supporting each other so very much as well, too. Because really, that's what's important about all of this, is that all of you are supporting each other through this entire experience, right? Kaylee liked my statement, ridiculous ding dong bull. Good, Kaylee, use that. I think I'm going to trademark it, so start using it now. But hopefully you all like this. Listen, there's one thing not to trust, and that's your OCD. And I want all of you to approach this week like that, all right? I want you all to recognize that you don't have to believe your OCD. You don't have to trust your OCD. It's ding dong bull. All right? Keep that in mind, everybody. Make it a great week. Go out there, live your life in the way you want to live it, not the way your OCD wants to live it. Go be well. Once again, check us out at nocd.com or download the app. Hope all of you are well. See you again next week.
can see, stood above my head now. Shining so bright, shining so bright, yeah. Shining so bright, yeah. When your life breaks down before your eyes, and there's nothing inside except the people that lie, you gotta hang on to your stand. I get so many plastic in this city, but the world just trying to break through. The flash out the blur, don't see the road is long, it's long, it's long, dark.